Hi Anna, I'm Stuart, I'm 56. I'm a librarian from Manchester. Just want to say thanks for providing this platform for people to talk about what's happening. I've got a few things I'd like to add. I'd like to talk about masks, for example. A few anecdotes. First of all, I refuse to wear a mask, and frankly, I don't care if I'm the last person in the world not to wear a mask. I will never wear a mask, and I'll never buy a mask either. But I went into a car garage near Manchester recently, and I walk in, and the receptionist has a mask and gloves on. So she's sitting there 7 hours a day wearing a mask and gloves. So what's that doing for her health? Utterly ridiculous. She asks if I've got a mask, and I simply say I'm exempt. And that was the end of it. I then go and sit in the waiting room and hand over my car keys to another person who gives me a little box. I put the car keys in the box, hand the box back to her. She sprays the car keys and takes them away. That's so ridiculous. That's just nonsense. I mean, where's the evidence that this virus can be transmitted by car keys? And then I'm waiting to pick up my car keys, so when the car's ready, I go back to the same person. She picks up the car keys, sprays them again, puts them in the little box, and hands the little box over to me. And I pick the car keys up. I mean, this is just utter madness. Where is the evidence that the virus can be transmitted on objects like car keys? It's like I went into a bank in Manchester as well recently with some documentation I needed to hand over. And I go up to the second floor. There's a big open plan office, and then in the middle of the office there's this like round coffee table like thing, and the person I'm meeting says, "Could you put the documents onto this table, please?" So I put the documents on the table, step back, he steps forward, picks the documents up and takes them away. So I can't actually physically hand over these documents to him in person, by hand. I've got to put them on this table first. Where is the evidence that this virus can be transmitted by handing the documents over by hand? This is utterly nonsense. Show me the evidence. And apart from anything else, for a virus to exist, it needs to have a host. So a host is a living organism. So since when have car keys become living organisms? Since when have sheets of paper become living organisms to enable viruses to exist on it? This is utter insanity. And it's got to stop. And people have to wake up to this. I also want to reference some documentation that people need to research. There's a private organisation within the cabinet called the Behavioural Insights Team, which in 2010 produced a document called Mindscape, which talked about how to modify the behaviour of the population. And they're applying that psychology now to the population to modify our behaviour. It's an attack on the minds of the population. So people need to look into that. Document's called Mindscape. Another document to mention, Rockefeller Foundation produced a document in 2010 and talked about Operation Lockstep, which is talking about a pandemic coming in the future as a possible scenario for the world. And the way they describe that pandemic, well, it's very close to what's actually going on now. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about. finally, in October of 2019, there was a virtual exercise called Event 201, which was a simulation of a global pandemic organised at Johns Hopkins University Centre for Public Health, funded by, steps back in amazement, Bill and Melinda Gates. So this was a virtual reality exercise to simulate a global pandemic in the future, and what happens a few weeks later, a global pandemic is announced. Another coincidence, nothing to worry about. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for providing this platform. And people have to wake up to this nonsense and come together in love.